Morning, everyone. Today we have a special guest, one of my coaching clients and a good friend of mine, Frank Delo, martial arts teacher, making movies, knife patents, and so much more. I'm really excited to have Frank on the show. That was a good cut. It's going to be really fun today. We're going to bring him on to the show. Let's go ahead and get straight into it, folks. Enjoy. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Talk Terror Morning Show, where we go over tips, tricks, ideas, and exercises to help make you the absolute best person you can be, not only for yourself, but for the people you love and care about most. And before we get any further, let's welcome our guest onto the show. Frank, it is so nice to have you on here this morning. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
So, Frank, you're a man of many talents. You've done a lot of things that I've been blown away. You're easily the most versatile person I've probably ever met. So, but before we get into it, would you mind? You're really big on culture, and would you mind kind of giving us some details on your background, where you're from, your family lineage, and that kind of stuff? It's really interesting.
Yeah, so I'm Filipino American. My family immigrated here in the 70s, and I came along in the early 80s. So a lot of my experience, a lot of what I do now and what I draw on, it comes from that experience of coming from a first generation immigrant family. And we grew up during a time where some of the diversity we enjoy today is it was a little newer back then. So but it's been fun kind of sharing all that experience with my audience and beyond, through the martial arts and writing and things like this, media appearances, media contribution. So.
Yeah, you're really close with your father. You mind talking about your relationship with him and his what he does in martial arts and how it's impacted you?
Yeah. Well, so his experience was similar to mine. He grew up around martial arts. His father, my grandfather, was the kind of the village stick fighting teacher. So things from just basic farmhouse discipline to broader skill sets. He was I think 6 or 7 when he first started training.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
And then this was during and after, shortly after World War II. He was born 1936, so he got to grow up with, experience a lot of history. We have this is part of what we talk about in the book too. Some of our family who had martial arts training, they were also involved with rebellion against the occupying Japanese back during that time. So yeah. I actually unearthed more of this through one of my other interviews on YouTube. Some of the audience, they actually recognized our family name and replied back to us that they knew people in our family who were fighting in that rebellion. So it's kind of cool unearthing that history. But yeah, with the post-war occupation and the culture there, he also learned Japanese martial arts. Some of the first wave of Japanese martial arts to come out of Japan. You look back at like the 60s and 70s when karate and judo started coming out. The GIs were coming home with new training like that. So you can imagine that wave traveling across the Pacific. He was part of that generation. So yeah, and then as a result, part of what I learned is a little bit of a mix of that too. So yeah, and then he's had a lifelong career in law enforcement, so plenty of time and experience testing those techniques.
Right.
Some fun stories in the book about that as well. But that all helped shape me into who I am and what I do now.
So with the martial arts is, I mean, I'm sure it's like this melting pot of a whole bunch of different stuff, and you guys have very specific style of teaching over at your school. What do you guys focus on, and how's that different from, say, other forms of martial arts?
Yeah, well, the school is Amalgam Martial Academy. So amalgam is the word for a mix, right? So everyone who teaches there, we have our own individual mix of arts, and we've actively combined them together into the curriculum we have. But a lot of there's kind of a combined focus, both of practical use, which hopefully it's a purpose we share with a lot of our martial arts colleagues. We want people to be able to stay safe with the information we have. So we focus on making it practical first. A lot of my trial, like new student trial classes, it's basically a mini self-defense seminar. Just keep your body safe and then run away when you get the chance, because you're not necessarily fighting for a title when you're out on the street.
Right.
So, but there's, combined with that, there's also this legacy of cultural preservation, because there's the Filipino arts that I teach, but also Chinese arts, Korean arts, Bruce Lee's martial art, Jeet Kune Do, which is kind of a hybrid system, but it's developed its own legacy through Bruce and now through through his students, and I guess great grand students. So it's important for us to share that history, preserve that history, develop appreciation for it through the practice. It's a little bit of both.
It's so beautiful with like the history that's involved like within this. And you talked about self-defense, and it seems so important that like whether you're like alone, you're going to like a Walmart parking lot at night or something like that. And how old were you when you started doing training and practicing your disciplines?
Yeah. Well, this is the fun part with my Filipino martial arts training. Dad actually started me really young, single digit age, but he presented it as play. This was the era when like He-Man and Ninja Turtles were just coming out. So to me, it was just playing swords, playing weapons with Dad. But
right.
While we were playing, he was also showing me the fundamentals of our Filipino martial arts. So if you count that, then it started very early in childhood. My first formal training where I earned a rank, earned a black belt, was Taekwondo, kind of middle school, high school era. But I don't know, for assuming the audience is less familiar with martial arts, not all martial arts use a belt system. Some Filipino martial arts have ranking systems. Some have adopted the belt system. So if you're looking at that, they don't all operate the same. But my first formal system with rankings in it was Taekwondo, and then from there through various let's say, a, a good-natured combat experience, I learned where some of the gaps were, and I started rounding out my training with, it brought me towards the Chinese martial arts, different styles of kung fu. Um, I
Yeah.
was
Cool.
I was also uh, I several or most of my degrees are in music, and there was this
Mhm.
point where I had to figure out, like, I love martial arts, I love training, I want to develop my capability, but I don't want to risk damaging my hands so that I can't play anymore.
Right.
So that's part of what brought me to Chinese martial arts. They still have practices where you can condition your hands, you can still learn to hit effectively, but um, they don't interfere with how well you move. So um,
Yeah. A couple of big points I wanted to kind of tease out of that is, I mean, first off, like your father teaching you how it's like it's about play. And would you say, because I think personally I get deterred on some things, I'm sure a lot of people would agree. Well, I'm not 8 years old anymore, I'm not 5 years old, it's too late for me to like become really good at it, or this and that. And I know you work with a lot of kids now. Is that like, do you think that's the easiest way to teach and to help people learn, is to make it just like more fun and playful?
definitely. I mean, look at you just look at what we do as adults. I mean, whatever your career path is now,
Hmm.
people become enthusiasts about what they enjoy.
Right.
So look, like, for instance, I had musician friends back during the lockdowns, the COVID lockdowns, that um, they couldn't go out and work, they couldn't play, so some of them suddenly got into sourdough bread baking. you know
Yeah. Hey,
it's
shout out
like,
to sourdough. Yeah.
yeah, and they it's something they had fun with, something that took some of the stress away. um and uh I feel like uh our adult emotional baggage, we start adding this gravity, the seriousness to a lot of what we do, and it
Yeah.
interferes with how our brain processes things. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, and I've seen the benefits in our martial arts studio, where we present the material, whatever curriculum it is, we present the material and we find ways to play with it. And then when we bring it to competition, for instance, they we have people who are regularly competing uh, above their expected skill level, because they've processed their information in a less stressful way. It's not it's not just I don't want to get hurt. That kind of uh,
Yeah.
it makes you kind of freeze and be move in a frightened way,
Hmm.
versus um, kind of the put, like, it's an elaborate game of tag and I want to win the game. You
Yeah.
start moving differently, processing differently. Even the weight of winning or losing just becomes gameplay level. So it's um I think part of it is just removing the stress that we already put on ourselves.
Yeah.
uh, and I think that's also part of why kids learn so fast, because they don't have that layer of adult stress on top of their the way their brains are wired. It's that lack of that that lack of gravity or fear of consequence that
Yeah.
I think lets them learn.
It's giving yourself permission to have fun, taking the seriousness out of this.
Yep.
I gotta say, so your dad's what, 87 then? If he
Yep.
was born in 36. This
Yep.
and he seems like he's moving around pretty good, coming like to events. And shout out to your book. I gotta add that to the stage, Five Angles. Make sure to go check out a copy of Frank's book. And in the book, there's like lots of images of your dad like participating and like the healthy movements and stuff. Do you think this like training and doing this, it's like it helps not only your brain but your body, like with longevity stuff?
Oh, definitely. I mean, so I've in my career I've worked with a lot of different age groups, like little kids up to now, you know,
Yeah, like
80 to
everybody.
100-year-old.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it it never fails, the more the more active or the more consistently active the person is, the healthier they are. And some of the populations I work with now, like I'm at a senior center and I get to see this firsthand regularly. Some of the sources of dysfunction from people are just, those are things that, somebody's just been sitting behind a desk for 50 years,
Yeah.
and now they're in a walker. They can't hardly, or a wheelchair, things like that.
Hmm.
And the people who are still mobile, still active, they're the ones doing every fitness class. They'll come to my Tai Chi classes. It's that, using your body. You probably heard the phrase, use it or lose it.
Oh
your
yeah.
your your body adapts even to lack of use. So if you're not using it, your body wants to be
Yeah.
efficient. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not using this strength anymore. I'm not using this mental capacity anymore. I don't, just kind of let it go. So yeah, I mean, I'm certainly a fan of martial arts for long-term movement, because there's the cross use of keeping yourself safe. Um, but it's also fun and interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a layer for me. It's a layer beyond just hitting the gym and pumping weight, or just walking a treadmill for half an hour. You know,
You talk about this level of engagement, this level of play, and the other day when we were in a coaching session, you had mentioned that one of the older clients that you have, they were like starting to like literally improve their memory and get engaged and that is nuts. I don't know.
yeah.
Do you remember how old that person was, or what was the deal with
Um,
that? That was crazy.
so I don't know exactly, because I don't want to be too nosy in that setting.
Asking
But
their age. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, these are people. A lot of them are late 80s to 100 plus. So
Oh
it's
wow.
it's, it's that, you know that extent of age. But and we're, um yeah, the that person in particular, they already have memory issues, some level of dementia. um but as soon as she started coming to class, she started remembering, like, she'll routinely stop me and like double check when is the next class, what's the day and time, because
Hmm.
she experienced such, positive benefit that, out of all the things her mind wants to hang on to now, that's become one of them. So,
Dang.
um, and yeah, every time we talk, she's like, "Oh, I feel great after class." And people this age in this condition, they complain a lot about their aches and pains, or just their
Yeah, of
daily
course.
daily moving around. So it's
Mhm.
a pretty profound benefit. And this is across, all the residents who've been to the class. I've heard, improved breathing from people who've suffered stroke, things like that.
Yeah.
Balance and mobility, stress relief, just all these tangible benefits, and things that, um, things that are beyond kind of the average exercise class, of just, pumping the little. They have the little, like 1 to 3 pound weights.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a unique and profound, layer of benefit that I've seen.
That's so cool. And that's gotta mean so much to you as just an instructor and someone who just like wants to see people like improve and be healthier and happier. I wanted to ask you about like, so martial arts, right? We talk about discipline a lot in our coaching and how you're disciplining everyone from like children to like stressed out adults. what are some of the like the core values and like just like principles of martial arts that like are universal? They go beyond the martial arts and just make us like happier and healthier people, you think?
Yeah. So I put a little bit of this in the book. That the book was meant to share our family system, but also some of my basic notes about being a teacher, teaching martial arts in particular. But there's a lot of, I guess, kind of personal honesty. Um, you have to accept the reality so that you can improve it or change it. If
Mhm.
we're, if you're, let's say you have some expectations of being the next big UFC champ, but
Yeah.
you've never set foot in any kind of training. You don't go to the gym in any way. You just think you're gonna see red and go nuts. Like that's not a concept based in reality. You have to look honestly, like, okay, I want to be a UFC champion. These are guys who spend their whole life basically
Yeah.
in a gym
Really.
fighting people.
Mhm.
So where do I stack up against that? Well, like what's my goals? Yeah. Um, I've worked with this with some of our students. They start getting up in rank and then they think that they're a pro fighter now. And
Yeah.
like that's that's usually where the instructors kindly step in and show you how much more you have to learn, you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
But it starts with that personal honesty. Like who am I? What do I want to do? And what really realistically uh, do I need to do to get to get there? You know,
Mhm.
and that's something I've seen paralleled in my own business journey. Like, okay, I know I didn't go to school for business. I didn't go to school for any of that. What do I need to know? Who do I need to work with to accomplish these things? And just try to maybe avoid hitting hitting the brick wall quite so often on my way to my goals. So working with people like finding the right expertise or even just other perspectives, so I can
Mhm.
see like we call it surveying the terrain. It's something I got from Art of War, so
Yo,
with
yeah.
Sun Tzu. So surveying the terrain, this is what this falls under. Like you look ahead, like who am I, who are they, what
Mhm.
does the field look like, and what plans can I make around that. So but that you have to be honest with that that visualization, very as objective as you can be, so that you can, I mean, the rest is your subjective, like your attitude about yourself, your discipline, your drive. But you have to start with an accurate perspective, accurate map.
This so talking about maps and kind of like things coming about and having the right people around you, I wanted to ask you to share this so kind of back to our like traveling subheading. So you didn't go to school for business, but you play business every day. We talked about playfulness and you got your hands in a lot of things. You mentioned being a musician. Will you mind sharing the Germany story? Kind of like
Oh yeah.
you going over to Germany originally, and now some of your new congratulations by the way on your new patent, but some just how that all worked out. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So I think I said earlier, I went to school for music. I have, was it three degrees now in it. Um, and so I play clarinet. So most of my career has been in classrooms teaching music, and playing in symphony orchestras. So
Sick.
one of my big experiences was, I got to go to Germany for um, a couple summers to perform summer opera. Um,
Yeah.
that's like, that's like being, it feels like being invited to play Major League Baseball in America.
Yeah.
It's that, opera in Germany, that's like a big cultural thing for them. You know, a
Yeah.
couple hundred years of
Right.
that. You know, it's a national pastime. So I got to, you know, I got to enjoy that opportunity. You know, and of course, at any time you're out of your own element, it's potential to learn a lot. Um, you know, I learned a lot of how we're similar. You know, the element of music that really unites people. Like I performed alongside people who did, you know, you basically couldn't communicate with them with language,
Yeah.
but
But with
uh,
music.
yeah, yeah, we were all able to play together in the same production, and
Beautiful.
you know, that layer was so um, I tend to see that in the other things I do, just like what's the unifying element. Martial arts is another element like that. I mean, I have connections around literally around the world for that, and it's
Mhm.
things that maybe I don't even speak. You know, same deal. I don't speak the language, but we connect through the practice, through the movement. Um, so it's understanding the difference, but then finding the connection. You know, it helps a lot. Um, you know, it's a very loaded experience, um, but the from that specifically, you know, I decided, and that this was years ago now, but back then I decided, you know, however it is, whatever I'm doing, I want to find some professional reason to come back to that country. You know,
Yeah.
I did. I enjoy vacationing and being a tourist as much as the next person, but I had this feeling, this desire to contribute back to where I'm going. So I wanted to go back. As you know, at the time, all I really knew was, you know, the music profession. But
Mhm.
now over the years of, you know, the martial arts and my knife making has become a bigger part of my life, and
Yes.
it's that aspect that looks like it's gonna give me the window to get back there. You know, I have uh, at the time of this show, I'm still waiting for you know, the dotting the i's and crossing the t's, but I have a company in Germany who's agreed to produce one of my knife designs,
Yeah.
so
That's awesome.
that'll hopefully be available commercially, you know, moving into next year, I hope. But that's, you know, that's kind of my the fulfillment of my my intention from all those years ago.
This one of a few things with just it's crazy how like when we set intentions towards things and also the time horizon. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and he talks about people always overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. And it just a lot of this stuff takes a lot of time, and it feels we're more impatient now than ever with things being so accessible and so fast. And the things that I mean, between music and martial arts, to become so skilled, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of focus. And I mean, how have you been able to, with your disciplines and interests, how have you been able to like stay so consistent for so long and not just like quit?
Yeah. Well, um, my generation. I'm going to sound like an old man for a little bit.
Lay it on
My
me.
Yeah, my generation. I grew up before, or I was born before internet and cell phones and a lot of the common convenience technology we have now. You know,
Yeah.
is the 80s where you just, you know, your parents will just lock you outside for a while, like go play. You gotta develop your imagination, and you know,
Mhm.
the part of it was just understanding that good things take time. You know, mom used to cook a lot, and you know, it didn't matter how hungry I was, like the food takes the time it's going to take to cook. You know, um, and that was, you know, again, first generation immigrant family. We cooked everything. up until I think the point where my family discovered like microwave microwave dinners.
Yeah.
Um, Everything was family style cooked. You had to wait. You had to wait for good things. I think with both music and martial arts, I've had teachers and mentors who they achieved the level of skill through hard work over a long time, and then both of those things, usually the longevity also means a um, uh, noticeable gap in skill. Like they continue to exhibit higher and higher levels of skill even into older age. Like
Yeah.
my I guess clarinet grand teacher. The lineage of clarinet playing I learned. Um, that teacher, Kalman Opperman. He's got different books out still, and some of his teachers have written books about him, or some of his students have written books about him. But um, he was teaching up until he hit like 90 years old, and you put a clarinet in his hand, and I would challenge anyone to sound as beautiful as he did, even at that age.
Yeah.
He just unreal level of skill. And I've played, some of my colleagues from that studio. They play, they played with like New York Phil and like the big worldwide, or like world class orchestras. And
Mhm.
still, we're sitting in the same room with this guy, and he, advanced age. He can't hardly, at the time, he couldn't hardly stand up out of his chair, but you put the clarinet in his hand, and it's just like otherworldly. Um, yeah, and same thing with martial arts, especially the Chinese internal arts. I've touched hands with people. I just, somebody wants, like Tai Chi, for instance. I've done push hands with Tai Chi masters, and it just, whatever they're doing, I can't keep my feet on the ground. Like, they can toss you around at will. It's a very specialized skill, but it's like suddenly you're just not on the ground anymore. It's like your feet are just ice skates now, and you
Mhm.
can't, and it's those are things that are, regardless of your physical condition. It's not something like, they're a 400-pound power lifter and they just keep you in place. Like it's 70-80-year-old guy, and just, you know
Yeah.
they understand your body and your movement so well that what they're doing to you just seems like magic.
Yeah.
So both of those fields, I feel like there's just endless layers of discovery and skill to find.
The curiosity seems, and the interest and the playfulness seems so consistent in a lot of what you do. But however, it's obviously not all sunshine and rainbows. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a person, you just have a lot on your plate. We both know that. I wanted to ask you some like health and happiness questions for our audience. That's kind of my specialty. And so, do you feel overwhelmed with life and business? And when you do, how do you kind of help manage with that feeling
Yeah,
overwhelmed?
right. Well, I feel like um, if you're working towards a big thing, it's inevitable to run into some roadblocks or some difficulty.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, for this, I go directly back to martial arts experience. Part of martial arts training is hitting and getting hit. And you're not. And I try to teach this to especially the kids, because they're nowadays, especially nowadays, they're more sheltered, a little more protected.
Yeah.
And I have to remind people, like, even just basic exercise, like, it's not going to feel good, but you're developing, that this is the only way we get stronger, you
Mhm.
know. And my adult students, sometimes they get frustrated. They're learning how to block or defend, or move defensively, and they'll eat some shots, and they'll either be apologetic or angry at themselves. Like, look, this is this is part of the process. You don't learn your best unless you take some shots and learn how to roll with it, learn how to, what I was talking about earlier, that personal honesty. Like, there's nothing like getting punched in the face to show you exactly who you are, and what you're made of.
Yeah.
I've seen people, let's say in like a sparring context, they mimic professional movement. They're throwing their shots, but as soon as somebody eats one good shot to the face, they both turn into the drunken windmill, just
Yeah.
randomly throwing. So that, to me, that's a big reveal about who you really are, like how much you've actually trained, or what's really inside you. So I think part of my goal with the teaching is just try to give you something there beyond, like an expectation beyond your initial failures. Like, this is part of the process. So for me, I have to go back to and actively remind myself, like, okay, I'm running into a hard time. Like, this is a slow month, whatever it is. Like, okay, I've been through this. I understand I can eat some shots, but and understanding too, it's not a moral failing if I run into difficulty. It's just a problem to solve. Something to, it's a computer mode. Like, let's just objectively find out how do we get here, what needs to be done. Survey the terrain and move forward again. Yeah, it's eating the shots and understanding things from there.
Yeah, being able to like kind of reground yourself and pull yourself back into why it is you really do what you do. I have become such a fan of, or at least it's given me a lot of peace in the space of feeling overwhelmed. I think it's really, there's so much pressure that we put on ourselves nowadays, and it's kind of remembering like that I'm doing, whether it's you're making content or you're running your business and stuff, and it's really the activities. These are the opportunities to enjoy, and I think dropping the fight with them, like, oh, this sucks, or whenever I think about working out, whenever I think about how much it sucks, it just makes it that much worse.
Yeah.
Versus kind of like surrendering to it and acknowledging like this is really what this is.
Yeah.
And it's just very real in your world when you get like Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, and right. It really just forces you. My brother's a big rock climber, and is reminds me of martial arts a lot. Just like this physical intensity of like going into the void, being so locked into the present and stuff. It makes you revert back to that training. And I think there's a lot of peace and can really reduce that overwhelm.
Yeah.
Going into so self-care habits, my girlfriend, one of her favorite questions, and mine myself, is like asking like, what are some self-care, what's your self-care routine? What are some self-care habits that you enjoy that keep you moving and grooving?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is one of those areas where martial arts is kind of double duty. So, part of it is therapeutic movement. I can just do what I'm already doing, but for my own sake, not necessarily just to teach the students. My kung fu teacher, he so the main kung fu system I practice is called Baguazhang. It's one of the main Chinese internal arts, but it's characterized by the main practice is walking a circle. There's some different flavors out there, but our particular lineage, my teacher always says that the practice is everything. Everything's the practice. So if I have if I want to correct some kind of joint or muscle problem, the answer is I gotta go practice. I gotta go do the practice. If I want to build health in some way, or whatever the goal is, he always talks about, like, it's walk the circle, go do the practice.
Mhm.
So for me, that's one of the self-care things, is just go practice. And whether it's the movement, or like engaging in kind of the meditative side of the practice, it's usually there's some benefit coming out of there. I mean, I was talking about earlier with the Tai Chi class, the senior Tai Chi class. That's part of the benefit, is it's not just working out your muscles. Like, there's a lot of layers happening at once in the practice. So
Yeah.
That's part of it. I mean, and the other common things are still valid. Like sleep enough, eat well.
Go figure.
Yeah, but for me, a lot of that is connected to the martial arts practice, also. So
nice. Well, I wanted to kind of get into our last segment of the show, is some coaching exercises together to give people a better idea of what it is, like who you are as a person, and also how I show up professionally and can help people within the coaching space. Before we dive into the coaching exercises, I just want to give a shout out to our course right now, the One Page Life Plan. If you're looking to understand your values, understand your purpose, and be held accountable to these things, make sure to go to talktotanner.com, check it out, and go to the One Page Life Plan. So, Frank, we're going to dive into some coaching stuff. Let's have some fun here. I'm going to kick this off. I'm going to kind of change this up right here so we can see me a little bit better. Okay. Today's coaching exercise is going to be a list of just questions that we run through. So anyone at home, you can practice these questions. You can keep these. These are great for both journaling, self-reflection, or if you have a loved one, a family friend, a client, or a coworker, if going through these is very helpful, run through these. This is great for just self-understanding and more discipline in your lives. Okay, let's get to it. So, all right. What is one piece of advice you would give yourself if you could? So say, let's go ahead in the future just a couple years, and then you're looking back on Frank today. What is one piece of advice you would give yourself?
Let's see. Maybe see how much I can understand about a new path before I start diving into it.
Doing some research, doing some.
Yeah. And I say that because, I mean, this is the track even the martial arts school has taken, or like the knife business as well. We just think something's cool and we have some skill in it, and like, okay, now we have our LLC, and just go ahead. We just dive head first into it. I feel like that's something that comes from my training background too. I have a tendency to just dive head first into stuff and fight my way through.
Yeah.
But it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt anything that much to take a little time and survey the terrain a little bit more.
Okay. Surveying the terrain, doing a little more research. What's kind of, so we can boil it down into specific actions. What's a topic or idea that you can do some research
on? Let's see. Well, for instance, I think I mentioned in one of our previous calls about planning a tournament. So,
tournament, yes.
Yeah. So understanding everything that's involved, not just I want a group of people in one space to fight. There's things like, as I've been researching it more, and my other instructors have been looking into it, things like, does there have to be a sanctioning body of some kind legally in the state? What medical or professional things do I have to have set up? You know, what kind of insurance, liability type things, you know, um, how do we handle even like the prizes? Like, do we just give out
Oh yeah,
medals
prize.
and trophies, or do we want to have like a fight purse? You know, there's a lot of directions this could go. So
Mhm.
figuring all that out and then narrowing down our particular path for what we want. You know.
Beautiful. Okay. Topic, tournament, details. Where would you want to put all of this stuff? So we got some starter notes to get going. Do you like taking notes in Google Drive? Where do you like storing your information to kind of keep a good file that you can come back to when more ideas start to spark for you?
Yeah, you usually now I have something in the Google Drive. You like
Okay, Google
a
Drive.
yeah, specific doc in the drive for whatever it is we're planning. So there's one in there now for tournament,
Okay.
but we have the other topics too, like who to hire for which job, or you know, um, different curriculum programs, things like that.
Beautiful. Okay, we got an idea. We have a place to go. You're a really busy man. You got a lot of things going on. When is the time that you would want to? This is clearly important to you. When is a day and a time that you would like to commit and to do this, to kind of set some time aside to take some action on it because it's important?
Yeah. Well, that uh, I've had different time blocks over the years, and now that the school is starting to grow and change, like those time blocks have changed a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah. Evolve and change and growing.
Yeah, I think I can at least start with kind of the daily after kids class time.
Okay.
At the very least, that's just a handful of minutes I can, um, so like usually 5:45 during the week. Um, you know, but there's a 6 o'clock class, and depending on who and how many show up, that block is variable, but it could be
Okay.
anything from those couple minutes to more than an hour until the 7 o'clock class. But
Yeah.
that's time I can budget for that.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. And then just so more folks understand kind of how this process would work, now we kind of get in a drive. The client would share it with the coach, and then we'd have a follow-up accountability system reaching out around these times, just like, hey, checking in. Are we able to start? Because if anything, I think, I don't know about you, but for me, the hardest part is starting and just kind of getting it open and doing it and getting over, like stepping over the line of action, and like, okay, because don't sell short. Frank's really good with like going to tournaments, giving talks and stuff like that. Now it's like really the organization and the pieces underneath it that we can do to make this really big and special. So having some accountability, some follow-up, but this is kind of what this looks like. Okay, on to the next piece. So what is your number one goal for 2024? What is your number one goal for 2024?
I mean, in a broad sense, I would like to. I kind of want to not have business related debt. I'd like
no doubt.
working from a surplus.
Mm-hmm.
We have some some amount of debt. I'm kind of not happy with having that hang over my head. So however we're going to do it, with either students or outside events, I want to hit like a decisive surplus, financial surplus.
Okay. Okay, is there a metric? Is there a place is there an area where we can have just like something that we can tie to. So over here, I'm going to kind of show you guys. We have what we like to really focus on here is our one-page plan. Let me kind of get this. So this is my personal one-page plan. We'll go ahead and share my screen. So this is something that if you were to take the one-page life plan class, this is the one-page plan that you put together and get out the end. Then we have our goals, and we kind of want to just make sure that we have something specific that we're able to come back to and refer to. And so in Frank's situation, we're going to really try and hammer this out in the business department. In the wealth, know that. But really, the whole point here, whether you have a tool like this, or if you're just kind of writing things out or organizing it, we want to be able to have a system that we can check back in with consistently. And I know you have some business partners, which is we want to always make sure to get all parties involved. Is there a check-in system that we could talk to our business partners and make sure that we share this goal with them as well?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have anything too formal for that. You know, we have pretty regular instructor chat with these kinds of things. You know, and then my business partner he's also my friend, so just our regular friend things of going to eat or drink and then talking about the business also, so I consider that kind of the regular check-in, like, hey, can I buy my golden toilet yet? No. Okay. Keep working.
Okay. Well, we have our number one goal. So if you don't have that written out, folks, back at home, this is always a good question just to check in with it. It's a super simple one. It's like, oh, duh, I know how to do that, Tanner. But how many people actually have this on a piece of paper? How many people are actually, you got someone in your corner who's checking in with you on this? But these are just some good questions to ask and kind of check out with. But I wanted to give the folks a little bit of a better idea of how kind of we're working together and kind of making sure we're holding each other accountable to be the best versions of ourselves. Okay, perfect. Alrighty, Frank. So we have here, I wanted to, before we kind of wrap this up, I got to ask you about, so you were in a movie, which was pretty sweet. So what is this? Is this Bruce Lee stuff? What's going on here? I'm going to go ahead and pull this up real quick.
Yeah, so I was in it's called Legendary Masters Council. So the main producer, the guy whose brainchild this is, Dimitri. He's one of my friends and colleagues from the martial arts world, and he I guess we grew up around the same time, but he was really into this old show, WMAC Masters. So it's kind of like, kind of like a pre-choreographed martial arts type show. You had people fighting for titles, imaginary titles and rankings and things. So he wanted to make, his own version. Basically, I think the story is he was trying to find the rights to continue the WMAC franchise, but it was so tangled up, with who actually owned the rights to the show. So he just kind of worked around it and made his own. But it was fun. He wanted to feature this kind of thing with actual, trained martial artists, show some of our skill set. I'm not a big main character, at least not right now. And what you're seeing is the pilot. So the idea is, we promote this enough and try to generate interest to make it a series. Um, but it was a lot of fun being on even just the pilot project. I learned a lot about how these things work. Um, the expectations and the how fun it is because I've never met these people before, or a lot of these people, and like I said earlier, we share that common martial arts connection, so we're all able to connect very quickly. Um, fight each other, whether it's on camera or not, which is fun. But yeah, I'm open to more of those. Like I was told that if we can get the series going, I'll be back as a little more recurring character. But however that pans out, it's another. I think it's another possibility of what I wouldn't mind doing.
So interesting. It's really beautiful that you're willing to like put yourself out there, be in this type of stuff, and hey, you're really good at connecting with people, and I feel like that's attention, media, just connecting with more people. I think you kind of got a bunch of funnels all over the place, and they're kind of all feeding back into this like Frank Delo brand, and it's just kind of building and getting stronger.
Yeah, I mean that's something I've figured out. I'm sure we've been talking about it together, but this idea, it's the personal value. Like the value is me. It's not just like some neutral commodity. We're building these different things. The funnels and the specific value people are getting, but I've come to understand more that really that value is me. It's coming from me.
Yeah.
So I think that helps me keep things open to wherever my value might connect and fit with other people and their projects.
Yeah. You have speaking of projects, aside from the movie, we'll actually both be at this event on in February. You have a public speaking event. You mind sharing what that's about? Can people go to this thing? Is it a kind of stay tuned type deal? What's this for?
Yeah, well, some of it's stay tuned, but I've been invited to speak to the Asian American student body at Northern Illinois University.
Very
That's
cool.
one of my alma maters. But yeah, I mean, and it's something, like all of my college experience and connection so far has been in the music world, so it's kind of fun to have something outside of that arena to connect with the university world with.
Yeah.
But they've invited me to talk about a lot like what we're doing now, my life and experience, the my professional life, and then specifically to that audience about connecting with their cultural experiences as growing up as Asian American. You're kind of straddling cultures.
Yeah.
So it'd be fun. I think it'll be a little cathartic for me, and hopefully fun for everyone involved too.
Any advice for people who are trying to become more comfortable with public speaking?
I think just talking to people more in general.
Time under tension makes sense.
Yeah, I feel a little bit comfortable already just because I've spent a lot of time teaching, and that's its own form of public speaking in a a little different flavor. But I like, and the same thing with music. I feel comfortable because you're performing in front of an audience with whatever skill set. So usually one of the things we used to do to help people with their nerves, like their stage fright, we just go hit the local karaoke night at whatever bar in town, and
Yeah.
just, you have to have that experience that, you're not maybe you're not a Grammy award winning singer, but you can get up on stage and belt out a tune and nobody's going to hold it against you.
Yeah.
So yeah, just being in the saddle, and getting that time and kind of accepting yourself. And, like I said earlier, that's part of surveying the terrain and knowing what you're working with from there.
Dang. Time in the saddle, go figure. Gosh, everyone's like, oh, I hate that answer every time. We gotta do time under tension, but go figure. To wrap things up today, I wanted to give a couple shout outs to a few of Frank's. So you guys were able to see his book here on the screen, 5 Angles. Good book. Got a copy for it for myself. Cool martial arts deep dive, and also some human and personal development. Love the lineage and the graphics with you and your father. It's really special. Shelly, make sure you can follow Frank over at social media. We'll have that in the comment section and the description, whether you like to see like martial arts or stuff getting chopped in half. Frank does it all. So make sure to go give him a follow. And of course, the school over there, and you guys are in Westmount, outside of Chicago. So go ahead and check them out. If you know anyone in the area that wants to have like you said, this really cool way of like getting physically active, engaging your mind, learning and being in that state of play. It's I think it's so powerful. And whether it's children's or seniors or everything in between, Frankie seemed to be helping them out. So thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
Any words you want to share before we cut out of here?
Well, I guess I'll reiterate, survey the terrain and accept yourself and move forward. And don't be afraid to eat some of those punches on the way forward.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be I'm sure people have talked about this before, that path up the mountain is never a straight line, and the longer I move forward, the more it proves itself. There's always those ups and downs.
Yeah.
But we can choose how we respond to those moments of resistance.
Yeah.
So yeah, eat your punches, keep moving forward.
We can choose how to respond. Couldn't said it any better. Well, you guys have an incredible, incredible day. In case you needed to hear it, I love you. You're a badass. You got this. Let's eat some punches, move forward, find the things that we love, and have trust and faith that it's going to keep working out the way we want it to. Cheers, friends. Catch you guys on the next one. Bright and early, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time with another episode of Talk Terror Morning Show. Cheers.